A warm welcome to all my dear 6th standard children. Today we are going to see the second part of your digestive system. Yes, come on, let us see. So, digestive system is your chapter 4, and in the previous part, in your first part, we discussed how the food is digested in your mouth and also it is travelling through the esophagus, that is your food pipe, and also we saw what happens to the food in your stomach, right. So, till stomach we discussed in the first part. So, today in the second part we are going to see what happens to the food after the stomach, right. So, we all know that the food travels in the digestive tract from mouth to anus. So, this is known as alimentary canal, and we can see many organs that help in the digestive system. What are they? Mouth, esophagus, that is your food pipe, stomach, liver, pancreas, small intestine, large intestine, rectum, and finally the waste is eliminated through the anus, right? Yes. So, come on, let us see what happens to the food after the stomach. So, the partial amount of the food is digested in the stomach and the food is passed from the stomach into the small intestine. So, this is your small intestine. So, nearly the length of the small intestine is 6 meters long, and it is a long muscular tube and which is very coiled, how the wires are coiled, right. The same way in our abdomen the small intestine is coiled like this. Okay. So, once the partial means half digested food that is taken from the stomach into the small intestine, right. So, in the small intestine here we can see two organs that is connected into the small intestine. So, what are they? First one, liver. So, liver is the largest organ in our body. So, in our body the largest organ is liver. So, you can see in the right side of in our abdomen, right. So, this liver produces a enzyme, so which is called bile. So, B-I-L-E. So, this bile digests the fat that you eat into fatty acids and glycerol, right. So, this liver produces the bile, but it will not store the bile in it. The function of the liver is to just produce it. But where the bile is stored? Yes. So, the bile is stored in the gallbladder. So, this is known as gallbladder. So, you can see a greeny structure here, right. So, this is gallbladder. So, here only the bile that is produced by the liver is stored here. So, once the food from the stomach reaches the small intestine, the gallbladder releases the bile and thereby the bile mixed with the food and digests the fat. So, here you can see, so the liver where the gallbladder stores the bile, okay. So, the bile is taken through the bile duct, that is the gallbladder duct, and it is mixed in the small intestine to digest the fat. And not only the liver, the gallbladder, even there is a leafy structures which is present below the stomach. So, நம்ம வயிறுக்கு கீழே, that stomach கீழே ஒரு leafy structure ஒன்று இருக்கும், that is known as pancreas. Okay. So, this is known as pancreas. The pancreas is actually a exocrine gland and it is also endocrine gland. Why it is called as exocrine and endocrine? Because it also produces digestive juices and also it produces important hormones. Okay. So, that is why they are called as exocrine as well as endocrine gland. Here the pancreas produces a digestive juices. So, that digestive juice completely changes the carbohydrate into glucose, proteins into amino acids and fats into fatty acids and glycerol, right. So, mostly in the small intestine the food is mixed up with the bile and also the digestive juices that is produced by the pancreas. So, what are the digestive juices that is produced by the pancreas? Or trypsin, and then we can see trypsin is a protein, that is it changes the protein into amino acid, lipase and sucrase. So, these are the enzymes that is produced by the pancreas. Now, let us see what happens in the small intestine. So, here, so in the small intestine we can see the liver produces bile, where this bile changes the fat into fatty acids. Right, fatty acids and glycerol. And then the pancreas, right. So, the pancreas produces 3 enzymes. What are the 3 enzymes? It is known as pancreatic juice or pancreatic enzymes. So, they are called as trypsin, sucrase and lipase. So, this lipase is also called as stepsin. Okay. So, the trypsin changes the protein into amino acids. Okay. So, our muscles, our body is made up of small amino acids. So, the amino acids are the building blocks of proteins. So, if you break the proteins, it is broken down into small amino acids, right. So, these amino acids are important for our body to grow and to repair the damaged part. Okay. So, next is sucrase. Sucrase changes the carbohydrate. CHO means carbohydrate into glucose. And then lipase changes the fat into fatty acid. Fatty acid and glycerol. So, now we are clear what happens to the food in our that is duodenum part of your small intestine. So, I will tell in detail about the small intestine in the next slide. So, here you can see the liver produces a bile that produces a greeny substance that is known as bile. The bile changes the fat into fatty acid and glycerol. Yes. So, in pancreas, the pancreas produces a digestive juices, that is enzymes are called trypsin, sucrase and lipase. The lipase is also called as stepsin. The trypsin changes the protein into amino acids. Sucrase changes the carbohydrate into glucose, lipase changes the fat into fatty acid and glycerol. So, almost the food that we ate is somehow digested in the small intestine, and not only in the small intestine, we can see the enzymes from the liver and pancreas. There are also enzymes that is produced in the small intestine also. Now, let us see the small intestine. So, in the small intestine will be like a coil structure like this. So, in the small intestine is divided into 3 parts, that is duodenum, jejunum and ileum. So, in the duodenum, the small intestine also produces some digestive enzymes, where the digestive enzymes again digest the whatever the carbohydrates, proteins and fats which is present in the duodenum region. Okay. So, almost in the small intestine we can see almost the food is digested in the small intestine, right. So, then the digested food travels into the jejunum and the ileum. Okay. So, after the duodenum you can see the jejunum and the ileum. Okay. So, in the ileum region and the jejunum region we can see finger like projections on the walls of the small intestine. Adhaadu on the ஓரமாக அந்த small intestine ஓரமாக வந்து பார்த்தீங்கன்னா we can see finger like projections like this. Okay. So, what is this known as? So, this is known as villi. V-I-L-L-I. So, what is this villi? So, this villi absorbs the nutrients through this villi. Okay. So, whatever the food has been digested, it has to be absorbed by our body, right. So, then only we can use it. For example, carbohydrate glucose மாறிடுச்சு, proteins வந்து amino acids மாறிடுச்சு, fats வந்து fatty acids glycerol மாறிடுச்சு. But மாறின அந்த small nutrients நம்ம பாடிக்கு absorb ஆகணும் இல்லையா. So, the body has to use it. So, how it will use? With the help of the villi. So, the villi in the small intestine will absorb the glucose, amino acids and fatty acids and glycerol through this villi. So, in the walls of the small intestine we can see this villi, it will absorb the nutrients from the digestive food. So, here you can see this is the walls of the small intestine, and here you can see the digested food. Okay, from the digested food these are all the nutrients, okay, that is the glucose, amino acids, fatty acids and glycerol, they are absorbed through this villi, and this nutrients are absorbed and they are sent to the blood stream. So, blood vessels. So, how the nutrients are absorbed into our blood. So, நம்ம bloodக்கு எப்படி வந்து இந்த nutrients எல்லாம் கிடைக்குது அப்படினா இந்த விலை மூலமா அதை absorb பண்ணி என்ன பண்ணுது, it is sending the nutrients to the blood vessel, blood stream. Okay, so here you can see it is mixing. So, the nutrients are mixing with the blood. Okay, so almost the food is digested in your small intestine and it is absorbed in the small intestine. Then the food is that is the remaining food is travelled through the large intestine. So, after the small intestine the food is entering into the large intestine. So, large intestine is nothing but your பெருங்குடல், right. So, in the large intestine here no digestion takes place. Large intestine la digestion nadakadu, okay va, only absorption takes place. So, the remaining amount of water will be absorbed, and also in the large intestine there are some beneficial bacteria that produces nutrients like biotin, vitamin K idella vandu produce agum. So, in the vitamins, in the minerals alla kuda the balance production of the beneficial bacteria is absorbed in the large intestine. So, large intestine water and then the remaining nutrients are absorbed, no digestion takes place in the large intestine, and also in the large intestine the undigested food is sent through the anus. So, remaining once the water everything is absorbed in the large intestine and the waste and the undigested food enna pannum the large intestine rectum la store panni, and then it is sent out from our body, that is removed from our body through an opening called anus, right. So, almost the digestive system starts from your mouth till your anus. So, once it is excreted from our body we can remove all the waste from our body through the anus, right. So, now almost through this session you learned what happens to the food in the small intestine due to liver, due to pancreas and due to the small intestine enzymes, what happens to the food is digested, right, and it is absorbed in the small intestine in the area of jejunum and ileum through a finger like projections called villi, right. Then the food is sent to the large intestine. In the large intestine the remaining water and the remaining vitamins are absorbed, okay, and the undigested waste materials are sent out through the anus, right. So, till this your digestive system is completely over. So, now we are going to see what are the causes of the indigestion. Indigestion ajeeranam they will say, right. So, it is also called as dyspepsia. Ajeeranatha வேற எப்படி சொல்லலாம் அப்படினா dyspepsia. Dyspepsia is also called as indigestion. So, what happens, what are the causes, what are the reasons that causes the indigestion, ஏன் வந்து அஜீரணம் ஆகுது அப்படின்றத பார்க்கலாம். So, what are the causes? Overeating, eating too fast. So, once if you are eating too much of quantity, நிறைய நம்ம சாப்பிட்டுட்டோம் and we are eating very fast, அப்படியே அரிபரியில if you are eating also, that will lead to indigestion, okay. And eating spicy, oily and fatty foods, நிறைய amount of spices, masala items and then oily items, fatty items எல்லாம் நம்ம நிறைய சாப்பிட்டோம்னா there is chances for indigestion, okay. Cheese, ghee அந்த மாதிரி fatty items எல்லாம் நம்ம நிறைய சாப்பிட்டோம்னா கூட it will lead to indigestion. Next, lying down soon after meals. So, once you eat the food immediately you should not go and lie down, you should not sleep. So, you should have at least half an hour to 1 hour gap between your meals and sleep, சரியா. ஸோ நீங்கள் சாப்பிட்டு உடனே நீங்கள் போய் படுத்துட்டீங்கன்னா என்ன ஆகும்னா டைஜஷன் வந்து சரியாக நடக்காது. ஸோ that will lead to indigestion. Next, smoking, drinking too much alcohol. Even smoking also affect the digestion, and also drinking too much alcohol also harms your liver, and thereby it will affect the digestion process. Okay, right. Now let's see what are the symptoms of the indigestion. Symptoms means arigurigal. Okay, இந்த மாதிரி அஜீரணம் ஆகிறதுக்கு என்னென்ன சிம்டம்ஸ், என்னென்ன அறிகுறிகள் அப்படின்னு பார்க்கலாம். ஸோ சிம்டம்ஸ் ஆர் ஸ்டொமக் பெயின், வயிறு வலிக்கும். ஓகே, bloating of stomach. Bloating is nothing but accumulation of water or accumulation of air inside our body. நம்ம பாடியில் பார்த்தீங்கன்னா ஒன்ஸ் வாட்டரோ இல்லை காற்றோ வந்து சேர்ந்துருச்சு அப்படின்னா நம்ம பாடி பார்த்தீங்கன்னா கொஞ்சம் வீங்கின மாதிரி இருக்கும், ஸ்வெல்லிங் இருக்கும். ஓகேவா? ஸோ தட் இஸ் நோன் அஸ் bloating. ஸோ வயிறு உபுசின மாதிரி இருக்குன்னு சொல்லுவாங்க இல்லையா? ஸோ தட் இஸ் நோன் அஸ் bloating of stomach. நெக்ஸ்ட் வாமிட்டிங். ஸோ வாமிட்டிங் ஆல்சோ a symptom of indigestion. ஓகே, சரியா நம்ம சாப்பிட்ட ஃபுட் வந்து ஜீரணம் ஆகலைன்னா we will vomit. Next, burning sensation in the stomach. So we will feel like something burning in the stomach. So that is also a symptom of indigestion. Excessive gas formation. So once we eat food and if there is a excess formation of gas, so that is also a symptom of indigestion. So அந்த மாதிரி gas form ஆகிற மாதிரி இருக்குன்னா அப்போனா என்ன அர்த்தம்னா indigestion நடக்குது அப்படின்னு அர்த்தம். Okay, so these are all the causes and the symptoms of indigestion. Now let's see what are the healthy food habits. So if you want to avoid indigestion, if you want a proper digestion, we have to eat a healthy food, right? So now let's see what are the healthy food habits to maintain a proper digestion, right? So first one, you have to eat a balanced diet. So whenever you eat a food, you have to see that whether you eat all the nutrients, carbohydrates, proteins, fats, vitamins and minerals. So then only it is known as a balanced diet, right? Clean eat food. So you have to eat clean food where the food should not be contaminated with germs. So the food should be clean. So whenever you prepare the food, close the food and keep it to avoid infection of germs. Eat proper cooked fresh food. That is, you have to cook the food properly, completely, or you have to eat a fresh food. Okay, if you are eating a fruit or if you are eating a raw vegetable, it should be washed properly and you have to eat it freshly. Avoid fried foods, use clean utensils. So you have to avoid the fried foods because fried foods will have chemicals or it will have some carcinogens that causes cancer. Okay, so you have to avoid outside foods, mostly fried foods we have to avoid because it may have some chemicals in it and it will have high amount of fats. And also we have to use clean utensils. So whenever we cook food, whenever we serve food, the cooking vessels, the serving vessels has to be clean. So every night we have to clean our vessels, then we have to go to sleep. Okay, so mostly you can inform your parents not to keep the utensils, that is vessels, as it is. So clean it properly immediately. Once you use it, clean it immediately. Okay, eat more salads. So you have to eat fresh fruits and vegetables so that it is good for your teeth and it is good for your stomach also. So you have to eat more amount of raw fruits and vegetables. Consume simple food. So you have to try to eat simple food. Drink large quantity of clean filtered water. So whenever you drink water, the water should be clean and filtered water. And you have to chew the food well. So when you eat the food, you have to chew the food well because once you chew the food well, you can secrete more amount of saliva and thereby the saliva helps in proper digestion of your carbohydrates. Okay, so that is why you have to chew the food well. Next, develop regular eating habits. So once you follow a proper timing and proper regular habits, food habits, it is good for your health. So always have a regular timing for your food also. So don't eat your dinner very late also and don't skip your breakfast also. So you have to eat your regular meals every day. Okay, so once you follow all the steps, we can lead a healthy life by having a proper digestion. Okay, so in this class we learned what happened to the food, right? So first thing that we saw what happens to the food in the small intestine, right. We saw in the small intestine, two organs that help in digestion. So, where we saw liver and pancreas. So, these organs produces the digestive enzymes that is secreted and deposited in the small intestine. It is mixed up with the small in the area of the small intestine. So, where the liver produces a digestive juice called bile and pancreas produces some digestive juices trypsin, lipase and sucrase. So, these enzymes change the carbohydrate into glucose, proteins into amino acids and fats into fatty acids and glycerol. Okay. So, once these enzymes mix with the food in the small intestine, the food is digested in the small intestine, and not only liver and pancreas, even the small intestine also produces the digestive juices. So, all these digestive juices mix with the food and in the small intestine, completely the food is digested in the small intestine. Okay. So, then the small intestine, from the small intestine the food goes into the, that is the second part of the small intestine, that is jejunum and ileum. Here there is a small finger like projection. What is that? Villi, right. So, you saw villi, how it is taking the nutrients and sending into the bloodstream, right. So, this villi absorbs the nutrients whatever it is digested, right. So, and also we saw what happens to the remaining food in the large intestine. So, in the large intestine no digestion takes place, and here in the large intestine the remaining water and the remaining vitamins that is produced by the beneficial bacteria like E. coli, they produces biotin and vitamin K, and here the water, the vitamins and everything is absorbed through the large intestine, and the remaining we can see only the undigested waste materials that is stored in the rectum region, and the undigested waste is removed from the body through the anus, right. So, this is what about your second part of your digestive system, and also we saw what are the causes and the symptoms of indigestion. So, indigestion is also called as dyspepsia, right. Yes, and we saw what are the symptoms of indigestion and what are the causes of indigestion, and also we discussed what are the healthy eating habits to have a proper digestion, right. So, now children, after you watch this video, you have to go through the hard words and take the hard words and write at least 5 to 10 times, so that it reads in your mind. So, when you do a test or when you write it without seeing, you will not do spelling mistakes. Okay. So, take the hard words and do the writing process. Okay. So, after you watch the video, in the below description link you can see a Google Drive link, click that and you will get the lesson related study material, question bank and self assessment. So, copy the study material in your biology note and read from the biology note. Okay. So, once you are thorough with the lesson, take the self assessment and do the self assessment. So, if you do the self assessment, you will come to know how far you have understood about the lesson, right children. So, hope this class will be beneficial for you. Thank you for watching. Have a good day.